going on, Jerome's? I understand that last night was tough and emotional, and the Vikings just gave it away now against stupid-ass Sean Payton and stupid Russell Wilson. It was just tough, especially the way the Vikings controlled the game throughout most of it, and Kevin O'Connell getting a little bit conservative, puckering up a little bit, and losing the turnover battle, literally giving the game to the Broncos, and the Vikings defense was fantastic, except on last drive, and so it is what it is. But let's not lose sight of the big picture. The Vikings are 6-5, staying alive. They had won 5 games in a row. They're still firmly in control of their own playoff destiny as currently the 7th seed. They're still in the NFC North race. Would have been nice if the stupid Bears would have held on to a stupid 12-point lead with 4 minutes left against the Lions instead of losing by 5. But no big deal. It really does suck. I mean, we almost have to root for the Packers to beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. Feel dirty, man. But, I understand that it sucks today, but the Vikings still back at it. And they're still a very dangerous football team. So here's 10 truths about the Vikings at 6-5. Staying alive. Number 1, Kevin O'Connell is a Coach of the Year candidate. The Vikings, remember, they've been doing this without Justin Jefferson. They've been doing this without Kirk Cousins. They've had injuries all up and down the line. And remember, this team did start 0-3, 1-4, largely through self-inflicted wounds, just like they had Week 11 against the Broncos. But Kevin O'Connell riding the ship. Now, Dan Campbell's obviously going to win the award, like even if and when the Vikings do steal the division away from the Lions, mainly because the media just doesn't want to change their narratives. But that's fine. But number 2, the last 6 quarters have been absolutely gutless, and I do put a lot of the blame of the Vikings losing against Denver on Kevin O'Connell. And the whole thing about the Saints, too. The Vikings look like they're going to finally blow out a team, and Kevin O'Connell put the offense in neutral and basically just tried to play not to lose. And when you do that, you tend to lose. And we saw that with Zimmer for a number of years. But it just felt like the Denver game is going to get covered up because Kevin O'Connell had the fake punt and he went for it on 4th down later on in the game. Fully understand that. But they should have gone for 4th in the second quarter. They shouldn't have settled for a field goal on that one drive in the first half. And also, they shouldn't have settled for a field goal towards the end of the game either, when they were marching in the red zone. And it just feels like Kevin O'Connell is playing it too safe. And maybe he's putting too much of a governor on the offense as well. And also the whole obtuseness with the sticking with Alexander Madison thing. I don't know, man. But either way, it's like, the Vikings should have won that game. And does the narrative change if Dobbs completes like a 35-yard strike down the middle to Hawkinson and Greg Joseph kicks a 60-yard field goal to win it? Probably. But also doesn't change the fact that the Vikings have played not to lose over the last 6 quarters. And they almost lost against the Saints, and they did lose against the Broncos, which is unfortunate. But number 3, this team is still dangerous. So the defense is approaching top 10 territory. The offensive line has become one of the best in the game. They got weapons all over the place. Dobbs can be streaky at times, can certainly have the high highs. We saw a couple low lows, but this is a team that if you're their first round matchup, if the season ended today, the Vikings would start the playoffs in Detroit, or if the Vikings ended up in San Francisco or wherever, playing the NFC South Champione, or if and when the Vikings do take back the North. Either way, if you play the Vikings in the first round, do you feel really comfortable about it? Because they got a great defense, they got a good offensive line, and their quarterback on a given day could catch fire. And Justin Jefferson is coming back. I mean, the Vikings, even though it kind of sucks right now, and it's a short-term setback, and like we said, losing the road out-of-conference games are as close to as meaningless as you can have on an NFL regular season schedule, especially since they went to 17 games. But the whole thing about it is no one wants a piece of the Vikings, and they've rolled through injuries. I feel like they definitely missed Jordan Hicks as well as, even though Pace filled in well, they missed Jordan Hicks as well as Caleb Evans, but next man up mentality. And a team like that with nothing to lose is extremely dangerous. That's what the Vikings are right now. Number 4, wasted a great Flores game. and it was a fantastic game plan. They had Russell Wilson in jail throughout most of the game. 2 of 12 on third down, 1 of 5 in the red zone, forced 5 field goals, including multiple drives that were started on short fields. After the Dobbs fumble, which should have been personal foul on Kareem Jackson, but beside the point, they started on the Vikings 30, and then after the interception, they started on the Vikings 9, and they forced a field goal through for both of those drives. And I understand the last touchdown drive, not ideal, but it shouldn't have come down to that. And the offense should have put this game away. The offense should not have given the ball away that many times, and it's just rough, man. Next up, number 5, the offensive line is elite. Now, they did wear down at the end against that Broncos pass rush. Now, some of that could be altitude shenanigans. Who really knows? But in the middle of that game, the Vikings offensive line was moving dudes. They were taken to the front 7 of the Broncos, and frankly, the Vikings should have stuck with the run game, and also used Ty Chandler more. But this offensive line can win you a lot of football games. And especially adding in Dobbs or maybe Jaren Hall's mobility, I think that helps them out even more. And if the Vikings can get some semblance of a consistent running game, you can run the ball. You got a dangerous quarterback. You got J.J. Hockenson and Addison, as well as you have a top 10 defense. That's exactly what you need. Next up, number 6, Madison needs to be benched. Now, Kevin O'Connell, after the Vikings lost to the Chargers, dropped to 0-3, Kevin O'Connell talked really tough about, we're going to, if fumbles continue, we're going to bench guys and get guys in there who won't fumble. Madison's lost 3 fumbles on the season, all of them at really horrific times. And the Madison fumble against the Broncos was the turning point. It was the inflection point where the Vikings were driving up 17-9. They're at the Denver 34. Either way, O'Connell probably would have settled for a field goal, but touchdown effectively ends the game. And the Broncos got all the momentum back. They had a long drive. They put up points. They kicked the field goal, and the Vikings were on their heels the rest of the game. And you just can't have it anymore. And what sucks is that Madison, I like him. He's a good all-around running back. Can run with a little bit of power. He's a good pass protector, as evidenced in the game. But too many fumbles, too many drops in key spots, too. You remember that one against the Chiefs. And it needs to be Ty Chandler's time. And it's not like Ty Chandler is a neophyte in pass blocking or receiving. Like, he's very good in both departments. And he is clearly more explosive. And the Vikings running game needs that right now. And yeah, it's just rough, man. Next up, number 7, Dobbs is a ton of fun, but also number 8, Dobbs should not be guaranteed the job. He should be starting against Chicago, even though Jaren Hall should and could be clearing concussion protocol and be good to go. But I mean, Dobbs, we saw the heights of the pass shot and we saw the low points. So where the touchdown to Oliver, where he basically had an escape act, and if Mahomes pulled that off, like, we would never hear the end of it. Also had that nice rushing TD on 3rd and 8, but you saw that the reads were slow. You saw that the Broncos were cutting down on the running, and it was overall, like, you saw the highs, but also you saw not taking care of the football. Fumbles. He had 3 fumbles, lost 1, as well as he had 1 interception. Yes, it was off of a tip ball, but also he threw 3 or 4 more balls that probably should have been intercepted. And it really was a best of times, worst of times Dickens type game. But, I mean, Dobbs should and could start against the Bears. But if he doesn't show up and show out, I think that the Vikings will have a decision to make for the rest of the season in the bye week. Should it be Jaren Hall, the rookie who they drafted, the guy who knows the offense inside and out, the guy who was here throughout the entire offseason, training camp, preseason, regular season, was QB2 for a while, or Nick Mullins? I don't know. It shouldn't be Nick Mullins. It should be Dobbs, the passionate, or it should be Jaren Hall, right? And you could chalk up to some of Dobbs's deficiencies against Denver. It's like, oh, he's literally only 3 weeks into the offense. That's fine. Fully understand that. But is it something that's going to be improving, or is it something that eventually is going to be a detriment to the team? Like slow progressions, interceptable balls, not taking care of the football. Like, you simply cannot have it. Can't have it, man. Next up, number 9. The Vikings desperately need Justin Jefferson back. And you saw, like, Patrick Surtain II basically locked up Addison, and the Vikings sorely needed that extra playmaker. Now, if JJ was out there, like, that would have been a hell of a battle against PS2. Like, JJ still would have gotten his, and Addison would have run free against cornerback twos, right? But you didn't have that secondary option. Like, Hawkinson was sort of whatever. Oliver had a couple of nice catches. Brandon Powell did look good. KJ only had one grab, and the Vikings need their alpha wide receiver one back. And also, I will give Dobbs the benefit of the doubt. Like, let's see him in a game with Justin Jefferson. Like, maybe everything will be good to go. And I thought that him returning against the Broncos in cold and as well as rain was unlikely. But him at home with an extra 8 days of rest, and then will have missed 6 games, 7 full weeks away from that injury. And then you're at home, you're inside, climate controlled. Even though, yes, he did initially ding up that hamstring at home against the Chiefs. But in terms of getting him back, this is the best possible spot. Now, yes, giving him extra rest, could certainly help him. But I get having him back at 100%. Hopefully he's 100% by Monday, if you catch my drift. Because the Vikings cannot lose to the Bears. That actually plays into point number 10. Monday Night Football is a must-win against the Bears. Because there's a difference between losing an out-of-conference road game versus a home division conference game. This is a must-win. The Vikings need to be 7-5 at the bye. That cannot be 6-6. Because if they do fall to 6-6, and depending on how the other games go, all of a sudden it gets very dicey in the wild card spot. And the Vikings are 75% to make the playoffs right now. With a win against the Bears, it moves up to 85%, and they just got to take care of their business. And taking care of your business at home against a division rival in conference. So you would move to 7-5 on the season, 7-2 in conference, which is important for tiebreakers, and 3-0 in division, which is obviously important. Got to have it. So JJ, all hands on deck. Everyone's got to be good to go, and they got to be all in. And frankly, maybe the Vikings were feeling themselves a little bit, maybe getting a little bit high on their own supply, Pastronaut mania taking over, and maybe this loss, where it clearly was on them, where they clearly gave the game away against an inferior opponent, maybe this is the wake-up call on national television. Like, hey, every single game the rest of the way, Bears, Raiders, Bengals, and especially against the Lions and especially against the Packers, you got to come in, you got to bring it, and you got to go from there, man. You got to take care of business. All right. And I know that it's sort of a bum feeling right now, but this team is doing it without JJ. This team is doing it without Kirk Cousins. This team is doing it without Jordan Hicks and Caleb Evans, and they're still doing it. And they're still dangerous. They're still stringing things together. And Kevin O'Connell, even though he's been too conservative, tried to give the game away, he's still coaching his ass off, and this team is still fun. This team is still dangerous. And this team can still do a lot of great things this season, right? Just small bump in the road against Denver, but hopefully they learn from it, internalize it, and go from there. But your thoughts are thoughts. Tell the truth Monday. Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Won't support the work. Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.